everyone. Today we're going to start our Earth Science unit. In the next few labs, we're going to learn about our Earth and everything that affects our Earth. What I have here is a model of our solar system. In the center, we have the sun, the solar system. All of these planets orbit around the sun, and solar means sun, so we really have a sun system. We have the different planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, the planet that we live on, and that's the one we're going to focus on the most. And we have the other planets: Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. At the center of all of this is the sun that provides us with sunlight, with heat, and most importantly, energy. Now let's come back and focus on the Earth for just a minute. Now the Earth is orbiting around the sun. The Earth is also orbiting around itself. It's turning around itself, and it's turning around the sun. Now it takes 24 hours for the Earth to completely turn around itself. And that's when we get one day, when we have the difference between day and night. And it takes 365 days for the Earth to orbit around the sun. 365 days equaling 1 year. Now, I'm going to show you guys a little model of the Earth, and what we're going to focus on today is the Earth and our moon. It's not the Earth, not the moon, golf ball and a marble, but they're just models. Now this golf ball represents the Earth, and this tiny little marble represents the moon. Now, as the Earth is going around the sun and it's turning around itself, there is a moon that belongs to just the Earth. And this moon is also orbiting around the Earth. Now, what we're going to focus on today are the different phases of the moon. You see two posters behind me. We're going to take a closer look at those in just a minute, that really go through the phases of the moon. What does that mean? Does this moon change? Well, no, it really doesn't. But what does change is how we see the moon. It looks different to us, different times of the month. Now, right now, you'll see the moon right in front. You can see a full, complete moon. Now, as this moon orbits around, you start to see different images of it. And it will go behind the Earth where you probably can't see it at all. And then it comes back. And then it starts getting bigger and bigger until it makes a full, complete circle. During this whole process, did the moon change? No, the moon does not change. The moon stays the same. The moon is just one big, round, very big, heavy rock. You guys may have different ideas of what the moon is made out of, but it's just a rock. Now this rock, which we may see at night, and it may give us a little bit of light as well, moonlight. Does it have its own light? It doesn't. Where is it getting its light from? Well, from the sun. It's reflecting the light from the sun onto this rock, and this rock is what reflects its sunlight onto the Earth. So cool. It's difficult to understand, but really, really cool. Now, the different phases, when we see the moon looking different, sometimes it looks like a banana, sometimes it looks like a circle, sometimes like a half a circle. that has to do with what day of the month we are in. Let's take a closer look at my chart, see if we can understand it a little bit better. Here is a diagram that shows the phases of the moon. We start off with a new moon. When we have a new moon, you really can't see much. It's being blocked by the earth. Now the moon, as it orbits around the earth, we get to a phase where we can see a small sliver. As it keeps going, we see half of the moon. Now remember, the white is what we're focusing on, what we can see. As it moves, then it starts getting bigger. We see 3/4 of the moon. Finally, when it's in front of the earth, completely blocking, you can see the full moon, full circle, all white. And then it keeps going. And now again, we see 3/4. As it moves, we see half of the moon. And then we keep going and we see again this tiny little crescent section. Here is another diagram that goes in a linear form to show the phases of the moon. And again, we're going to start off with the moon being a tiny little sliver, the crescent shape. And when the moon is getting bigger, we call it a waxing crescent as it's increasing. So we're starting off with a new moon. Then we come to a waxing crescent. And again, you have to see the white, the part that's visible. This is what's being blocked by the earth. We move on to the first quarter. And when we are at 3/4 of the full size, it is a waxing gibbous, followed by the full moon where we can see the entire moon. The full moon is followed by the waning gibbous. Now we're at 3/4. Now this is the opposite of what this looks like. And waning means getting smaller. It's starting to get smaller until we get to the 3rd quarter. Now the 3rd quarter and the 1st quarter, you can see they're opposites of each other. And finally, back to the waning crescent, where we have a tiny little sliver. And after this, we are going to get to a new moon. Not there yet. And again, this waning crescent is the opposite of this one. Now, to be able to understand this a little bit better, we're going to make a model of the different moon phases ourselves. For this lab, you will need a thick, small piece of a poster board. You can even use a piece of an Amazon box. You will need some glue. You will need a carving tool, such as a plastic knife. And you will need about 8 Oreos. Here is my poster board. I have just labeled the middle moon phases just so that I know later what I am looking at. Always great when you're making a model to use labels. And I'm going to use my glue and my cookies to create my moon phases. I'm going to take a little bit of glue and I'm going to start with my new moon, the one that has no cream. And going to put a little bit of glue kind of all around. And I'm going to start by placing this right at the left-hand side and press it down. Now my new moon is followed with my waxing crescent. I'm going to, again, add glue all over. Not too much, but enough to make it stick. And this is going to go in the upper left-hand corner, like so. So I have my new moon, my waxing crescent. My waxing crescent is followed up by my first quarter. This will go right in the middle at the very top of my poster board. And you want to leave enough room because we're going to label the different phases as well. Now after my first quarter, we have a waxing gibbous. My waxing gibbous is going to get some glue. And this is going to go in the upper right-hand corner. After I have my waxing gibbous, we're on to our full moon. This is the area with all of the cream. And this is going to go on the right side in the middle of my poster board. And we are almost there. After my full moon, now I have my waning gibbous. My moon is starting to get smaller. Notice there's a sliver that's cut out. And this is going to go in the bottom right-hand corner. Again, making sure you leave a little bit of room at the bottom because we're going to label this in a minute. The next is my third quarter. Notice how it matches the first quarter. It's the opposite. Going to put that in the bottom row in the middle. And last but not least, my waning crescent. And this is going to go in the lower left-hand corner. And now we have created our moon phases made out of Oreos. Starting with the new moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, third quarter, waning crescent. Now what I want you guys to do is go ahead and label each of these phases. Now here is my final product. I'm going to let it dry, but you can see that I have labeled all of my different phases. And I can see if I go around, I can identify any of the phases by just looking at it and looking at the label. So today we use Oreos to help us make a model of the different phases of the moon. It's a really, really fun way to learn all of the different phases and to understand what is going on. Now you'll notice that here we did actually take part of the cream off to show you that the moon looks different. But the moon, the rock, does not change. How we see it changes throughout the month, but the moon does not change. Models are a great way to be able to understand things that we cannot see up close and things that we cannot physically touch because they're too big, too far, too small. This is something that we can see that can help us understand. Go ahead, make your own model. Make sure to not eat your model though. Have fun. I can't wait to see your final products.